because I didn't think beyond it. Like I was not into art. Like I think a lot of people that became art enthusiasts weren't really into, because that shit wasn't like built for us, right? Like that shit, like traditional art is hella stuffy. Like it's hard to like get into it. Like you have to fucking speak French and shit. Like I don't know, dude. I'm not gonna be doing that,
Hey everyone, welcome back to Admit One with G-Money. After a holiday break, I'm excited to be introducing someone new to the pod. A founder of X Populous, a Web3 game studio, and Minaswap, an exchange for tokenized sneakers and collectibles. He's been in the space for 6 years as an investor and advisor, and my friend, please welcome Soby. Soby, what's up, bro? How are you?
Dude, I wasn't expecting you to read that intro I sent you word for word.
Yeah.
And maybe laugh.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I want to give you the proper introduction that you want.
That was a great introduction, dude.
I don't want you coming off the show and be like, yo, fuck G-Money. Like he left out one small detail, like get him out.
The holiday break part, I was like, damn, this is so professional, dude. You're really leveling up as a podcaster, dude.
I mean, I'm trying. Not really, but I'm trying. It's podcasting is actually much harder work than one would think.
It's like up there with like a hard manual labor,
Hey, don't talk the profession down. Farouk's gonna get really mad at you. Me and Farouk are gonna get really mad at you. But dude, like I want to start off. Like I'm trying to think of. Do you remember the first time that we actually met, like in person?
Oh, the first time we actually met in person was a random party in LA, I think.
Is that I think it was before I think the first time we met was at the Delphi party that Disclosure spun at.
Yes, that was the actual very first time we met. Was the Delphi party and what was that, like 2 years ago? Like, it was like a year and a half ago or something. It was like in Brooklyn, like the rooftop. It was like dope as fuck. Like it was a lot of fun. And I feel like you just came up to me. You're like, yo, G, like what's up? And like we just started talking. And like, I mean, we hit it off. Like, I mean, you're a fucking Chad, so like we hit it off right away. I don't know if I told you this, but someone later was like, oh, were you just talking to G-Money? Like, could you introduce me to him? I was like, bro, I just fucking met him. Like, just go talk to him. Like, why are you shy?
He's like, I want his autograph. But that was also when I was like pseudo anon, right? So like I would walk in somewhere and people like wouldn't necessarily know who I was. Some people would know, and like it's funny because when I was first.
How was that like? Kind of, you're like fucking Bruce Wayne almost. You know what I mean? Where it's like,
I mean, dude, I'll take it, Bruce Wayne and Batman. But you're talking about like when I doxed.
No, when you were like something that I thought was interesting was like you were pseudo anon. We were talking about this when you were talking about I'm going to dox now, and you were like, I've been kind of doing the pseudo anon thing. Like if you were like in the industry, you already kind of knew who I was, but it was more of like an inner circle tight knit thing. But then as you started going more, because crypto became like kind of cool again, so there was more and more events and people would like meet you, and then you're like, all right, I'm going to dox. Like I'm doing all this stuff with 90cc. What kind of led you to that decision, and what have you noticed the difference between when you were pseudo anon compared to anon or like fully doxed now?
So I'll answer why I did it first, and then I'll talk about like the difference. Long story short, there's no real difference. Like no girls have flagged me down the street, be like, "Oh my God, you're G-Money." So like, I'm like, "What the
Prada? Oh my God!"
What? I'm like, "Why the fuck did I do this?" Right? Like, but I'll say that like when I did it, I was like, I think I took it as far as I could, and being pseudo anon, and I think it's at some point it's like when you're showing up to like these events, whether it be like the Prada show or, I was at the Tommy Hilfiger show and a few months earlier, and like all these events that like are like moments, right? Where it's like, okay, like there's a Web3 presence here, G-Money's there, that it's like, oh yeah, like don't take any pictures. And it's like, if you can't take any pictures, like why even document it, right? Like why, like who's going to write about it? Like, cause we live in a very visual world. And I was like, all right, well, I went as far as I could with this. And I think now the next level, if I want to get 90cc to the place that I think it can go, like I need to just be out there and be a visual face, one. And then two, this is like a month after, SBF scammed everybody. And I'm like, dude, like people literally think that like everybody in crypto is a scammer. Thanks, literally everybody in DeFi, CeFi, DeFi, right? And it's like, yeah, like not everybody's a scammer, so it's like we need like we need visual leaders, right? And so I give you a lot of props for always being visual, always being on the front lines, like always talking to people, right? Like, especially like in culture, like I know you helped OBJ like get his punk and stuff like that. And just like being a visual person, it's like, we need those people out there. Right. So that was like my reasoning for it. My life hasn't really changed. Like and like one of my things where I like this little anecdote was pretty much why I was just like, yeah, whatever. I might as well just dox. I was in New York in September. I was on a conference call. I was walking down the street in Soho, and some dude, as I'm walking past some dude, he's like, yo, check out my belt. And I'm like, it's New York City. I was like, dude, I'm not checking out your belt. Like, you're going to show me your dick, right? Like, I just like ignore him, keep on walking. And so then he's like, no, dude, like, check out my belt. It's like a Nouns belt. And so then like, I'm like, hey, can I call you back? And I look, and like he was building, I forgot the exact brand, but basically like Nouns glasses on a belt buckle. And, you know, we start talking for like 10 or 15 minutes. I'm like, oh, I'm headed over here. Feel free to come by, say hello. But he's like, yeah, I met you at VCon back in May, and I recognized you as walking down the street. I'm like, all right, if I'm being recognized already anyway, like what's really like the big deal? And I'm like, you know, hopefully next time it's just not a dude trying to show me his belt. His
Nouns belt.
Right?
Yeah. My favorite part of, or like one thing I always thought was funny was you would go take these really nice photos and you would fucking put your little punk over your face. Mm-hmm. And I was like, dude, this is like such a great photo. And now I love. Not like I mean, your punk is one of the most iconic punks of all time, in my opinion. But it's nice to. It doesn't feel like you're just slapping something on. Like it's more kind of coherent and sticks with your brand a lot. So it's kind of cool. And were you ever worried about security? I find a lot of people in crypto are like hyper paranoid about that stuff. But was that ever one of the concerns when you were doing like the pseudonym thing?
So initially, yeah, you know, and still even now for sure. Like I'm always like. I say I try to be hyper aware of my surroundings for the most part, but sure. Like, you know, like you never know. Like, I mean, even like from a hacking perspective, right? Like it's like literally like one social engineering hack that ends up happening, and you let your guard down for like a second. I will say like, I feel like all my like valuable stuff, right, is like not in my hot wallet. So like I don't even have access to it quickly, even if like, I needed to have access to it. So it's just like, I don't know. It's like, also it's like, there's people up there with much more money and like much more fame than me. So it's like, I just have like this one pixelated picture on the internet, and a couple rainbow squiggles, but like, you know, it's just like, why come after me? There's probably like a million other people out there. But I mean, that being said, I think like everybody in crypto, you know, you have to always be like hyper vigilant about it. Right. Like what's been your take on it? So like for you personally,
for me, it was like I was never really like pseudo anon or anything. I mean, I was just kind of like a schmuck for a bit because the crypto just wasn't cool, and I was just like trying to get my shit together. And then everything kind of rapidly changed, and I have this like weird skill set when I'm really good at like making friends and networking with people. And what I saw at least was what was nice is a lot of my relationships or a lot of like the stuff that I've done that has, you know, been worthwhile didn't really come from Twitter. Like Twitter made me a lot of like help me make some money, or like when I even really Twitter, it was back then it was mostly Discord. I felt like what Twitter is now, that's what Discord I feel like was, because now there's just too many Discords. But it was connecting with a lot of these like traders and Telegram chats and stuff, and talking about early DeFi stuff. That was like the early crypto network that helped me. But then you know, once I started like getting some money together and had the ability to like start traveling and like dropped out of school and like started like networking with people, I found that I was kind of thankful that I wasn't pseudonym, because then you had to be kind of like guarded. I wouldn't outright like tell people I did crypto or anything because it was still super whack back then. I think that's a good top signal though.
So when it becomes cool. So wait, so what time frame is this? Are we talking about like 2021 or like 2017?
So I got like when I first started in crypto, it was actually in high school selling hats and Team Fortress 2 for Bitcoin, and I made like a few grand. I should have just held the BTC, would have made way more money. And then I went to college, and I went to college. I went to UC Santa Cruz. I ended up dropping out, but one summer or something, I went to UCLA to visit one of my buddies, and one of his friends, I did acid with him, and we talked about Chainlink on like a shit ton of acid. I was like, this is sick. Like I'm gonna like focus on this. And so I was like an early like Link Mariner type of guy, but I was just like poor. Like I was, you know, trying to figure out my life, see what's up. Like I grew up poor or whatever, and then started getting into DeFi, which was like 2018, 2019, because that's when like ETHLand, which became Aave, and then Haven, which became Synthetics, came out. But back then, like, no one was really paying attention to it. I think something that's funny for like this new class of 21 or 22, they have such conviction in Ethereum. Ethereum used to be called like a Russian like vaporware scam. Like no one gave a shit about Ethereum, you know? And so then 2019, like we have like that little echo bubble. In 2020, things start kind of picking back up, and DeFi summer starts happening, and I think 2020 summer. And so that's when I like first made a bunch of money. I farmed YFI, right? Farmed like
dude, what price? So you got in like at the beginning for YFI?
I literally did the first fair launch pool. Where it was like you had to do like the curve. It was like it was complicated back then because everything had like CR. Like you took your SUSD, which is your synthetic USD, and you put it into curve, and then you get your 3 pool curve USD.
Dude, it's so funny, and like I'll just interject there for 1 second. Is like I like YFI when I got back into crypto, like in DeFi summer. I bought YFI at $5,000. That was my first buy at YFI, and that was because Andrew Kang, God bless his soul, wrote this incredible thread that I was like, fuck yeah, like this, I get this, and that was like my conviction long. And it's funny because I was talking to Max Bronstein, like our mutual friend, right? Like one of the core part of the core team at Sin, Sin City for everybody out there listening. I know those guys will go nuts, but. Like, I remember he was telling me, he's like, dude, I was selling that shit so hard. I was like, how much? He's like, I was in it like $30. And I'm sitting there, I was like buying his bags. Obviously, it went to whatever, 40. Yeah, 40 on that first run, and then like 95 like at the top. But like, that's fucking crazy that you were so early in those pools.
I was farming that with Max, but I was still like, looking back, I wish I was kind of more like serious back then in the sense of like understanding what was going on, because this was like my first introduction into markets, right? And I didn't like read that many books back then in terms of like learning about markets and how to handle these things. Because I think that was the craziest thing, was like seeing where DeFi was. Like there's still parallels to previous markets that you can look into, and because everything's kind of forward looking, but the history repeats itself. But you know, that made like a lot of money, and then obviously made a lot of mistakes too. But that I was like, okay, this is fucking crazy. I was literally trying to go back to school during all that when all this was happening. And I was like, I just made more money than my teacher in like a week. Like, why the fuck am I here? And I just stopped going to class and moved to San Diego. And then when I was there, I was like closer to like LA and Vegas, and I knew like a lot of like high net worth individuals out there, and started like just kind of networking and kind of getting my shit together, for lack of better words. But that was crazy because I think I went from everyone thinking like DeFi was this fringe thing to where it was like, this is what's hot right now, right? And then we had this huge explosion of volume across everything, protocols, like people started paying a lot more attention. I felt like that was the first time Ethereum found some product market fit, because at the leading up to that, the big meme was like, supply chain, bro. We'll put the fucking supply chain on the blockchain. It's like, okay, cool. Now people are like, oh, okay, there's like, for me, I think something that was so big was like using Aave for the first time.
Yeah, dude, that was same. Like that was my like, aha moment, right? Yeah. Where I was like, holy shit, this changes everything. And like, I think the way like I think I tell myself about it is like in the 2017 cycle, I feel like there were a lot of people that made a shit ton of money that tried to get that money out of the system, and every bank was like, nah, you're not coming. And then you have all these devs that made so much money that's like, well, fuck it. We'll build our own banking system. Like, what the fuck do we need you guys for? Right? And like, literally, that's what they did. And the first time I used Aave, I was like, wait a second. You're telling me I took out a loan, which was, I mean, it's a collateralized loan, right? So it's like, it's what a margin loan is. It's what a mortgage is. It's the same exact thing without KYC. In like the first time I did, I had no idea what I was doing. It took me like 4 minutes, right? It's crazy. It's like when you do know what you're doing, it takes you like 10 seconds, right? Yeah. And it's like, wow, I was like, this changes everything. And that's when I was like, that Aave moment was like, this is so massive. This is going to change everything, right? And
it's
like,
nuts, dude.
Yeah.
And then there was like this other, I don't know if you remember this, but there was, I forget what it was called. I don't think it was called Rocket Pool, but I don't know why I wanted to say that. But there was a savings game that came out where it was like,
PoolTogether.
PoolTogether. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So PoolTogether. So for people that don't know, PoolTogether was this thing where everyone bought lottery tickets. But it was a no-loss lottery. So you buy your lottery tickets, and all the proceeds from the lottery go into an interest-bearing account, right? So let's say like interest is 12%, and you get $1 million, and you put it into this account for 1 month. It earns 1%, so it's $10,000 is the pool, right? That $10,000 goes to one randomly selected lottery winner, and then everyone else gets their money back. This like tricks people into saving money, because I think the traditional lottery is one of the most predatory things we have in this country, in America at least. I don't know how big it is outside. And if you look at that no loss lottery thing, they tried to implement it in Brazil in the 80s, and they just didn't work because how could it have, right? There's so many issues with like distribution that come with that. And so that when I read that and I like looked back and saw, oh, they tried this in the past and it didn't work, that even strengthened my conviction on that stuff more. Like, oh, this has different ways to design things that have been tried in the traditional legacy system that just won't work in the legacy system. And you know, it's that access to finance. But I think you and I both did an interesting pivot going from like focusing on DeFi into NFTs, which I think is like a lot more fun, you know?
Right. No, dude, I totally agree. Right. And so like and I guess in case there are any regulators listening, I don't know officially what PoolTogether called it, but it was they definitely did not call it a lottery. So a game of chance or whatever. I don't even know what it was, but you know, but to your point is like, these are mechanisms that just couldn't exist. Right. Yeah. Because of the way our current legacy banking system is structured, and when things are not digital, it makes it really tough. So it's like all of a sudden it's like, you know, you can do it at the like economies of scale down to the low end, right? And that's like, I think what is the power of crypto is like things that were once available to only the wealthiest people on the planet start to become really available to like, you know, the person that like is like, yo, all I got is $10, but I want to partake in this. And like, you know, it's meaningful to that person, right? In terms of like, it's all relative, right? It's like $1 million to, you know, Bill Gates is like probably like a penny to like a normal human, right? So it's like that was one of the things that really, really stuck out to me. But then like, to your point is like, when I found NFTs right after DeFi summer, like in like late August, early September. When did you find it?
Dude, literally the same, around the same time. I actually made such bad mistakes. I should have listened to Trill. So I bought this NFT for 50 fucking grand, bro, back in 2020. And
Which one?
Dude, you never even heard of it. This is such an embarrassing story. I bought a fucking NFT to fund this protocol called Based. Do you remember Based?
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, yeah, that was the rebasing dollar. Like,
yeah. It has such good memes and stuff.
Yeah, yep.
And
Based.
So
yeah, I remember.
I was
that.
like, this is gonna be crazy. I was like, I think it was basically like you got 25% back on the loan or something was the yield, but then you also got this really cool NFT, and I was like, holy shit! Like using art at NFTs as a way to like collateralize loans and you make money. Like this is gonna be fucking crazy. Could have just bought a crazy Grail punk instead. Mm-hmm. But that was like the very first thing I did, and it was really because of the base community that I started buying NFTs, because there's a lot of really talented artists that were making this synthwave art. I really like synthwave, and I was buying a bunch of their art on Rarible, and this was in like ETH was like $300, right? And so I was buying a lot of that stuff for Rarible. Some of it was like on OpenSea, but I didn't really venture down the pathway of like what of this will be historical, because I didn't really realize at that moment what I was doing and why this was like significant. At that moment, I just thought, oh, this is really cool. Like I can empower someone that is like a creator in these communities, because up until that point, like I think something some people may not know is a lot of really big crypto projects got big because they had user generated content really that were making like copy pastas and memes and all these Pepes and stickers and stuff. And I've always wondered like who makes those, and I found out it was like, oh, it's really just people make those, right? And I was like, cool. I thought for some reason I was like, this is like a Russian psyop. Like
right.
fucking running on.
Well, that's what the meme is with Chainlink, right? Is that they were all like Russian psyops on 4chan, and it's like, man, like if that was
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a minute, like let's get into that. Maybe not today.
I've like forgotten about it because what I mean is just there was this guy that would post. It was like QAnon for fucking Chainlink, basically is like the vibe. Like these people would be like, look at this copy pasta, like posted on 4chan, like this is the future, right? And some of it came true. Finance. This is the future of finance. But that's what I was really doing at the time, and I didn't really realize how powerful this was, and then because I didn't think beyond it, like I was not into art. Like I think a lot of people that became art enthusiasts weren't really into, because that shit wasn't like built for us, right? Like that shit, like traditional art is hella stuffy. Like it's hard to like get into it. Like you have to fucking speak French and shit. Like I don't know, dude. I'm not gonna be doing that, And it was NBA Top Shot for me that made me go, aha. Like there's something here, because I'm a huge like Sacramento Kings fan, unfortunately. So I watch like a basketball and stuff. And I was buying these moments, and then I started thinking to myself. Like,
so wait, so when were you buying them?
Oh, like 2020, September of 2020.
September. Okay, so I think that was like slightly before me, and it's funny because I remember like around then, like it didn't hit its peak just yet. I felt like in January is when like you had peak FOMO on it. But I remember there was still like you still couldn't get legendaries, because I remember I would go in and I would try to get the legendaries, and every time I got shut out of legendaries, I would rage buy. I brought a rage buy a LeBron Kobe dunk, and I spent $1,000 on it. And I specifically remember as I was buying it, I'm like, man, I am lighting money on fire. Dude, like, like literally I was like, what am I doing? I'm like, but fuck it. Like if I'm going to buy something, I'm going to buy a LeBron legendary. And I specifically remember it was $1,000. I'm like, man, I'm kissing this money goodbye. Like, but maybe it's worth something someday. And like, turns out that was probably the best buy I made in all of Top Shot. You know what I mean? Like,
no, that's the funniest shit, because I was thinking the same thing. And then that's that thinking that made me actually go, wait, am I actually not a fucking idiot, or is there something here? And then I started going like, why is it when people buy real trading card, they don't feel the same way, right? Because why would I spend $1 million on a piece of fucking cardboard, right? Like that's like what I started thinking about. I was like, why are they buying that? I was like, oh, it's because it's a collectible, it has social capital, like rarity, all this stuff, yada yada. And then I was like, well, a physical good can be degraded, right? It can be faked. Right, and that's not something that can happen with a physical good, digital good, excuse me. And so that was the aha moment for me that made me go, wait, there's something bigger than just supporting creators here with NFTs. There's that aspect of like provenance and like I guess the persistence, right? Like provenance and persistence was like interesting after that.
Mm-hmm. Did you were you able to cash out? Were you able to do well on Top Shot?
Idiot. I didn't even know how much. So this is another funny story. Like, not even that funny, but I was just buying NBA Top Shots because I was like, fucking. I kept getting packs all the time because I was like early, and they had these like things. If you were collecting a bunch, you got like guaranteed packs. I would just buy them, open them, whatever, have fun, and I like forgot about them in 2021, and then it was like February because it was too much to keep up with when it started getting crazy. I was like, I don't care about this anymore, but I have a cool collection. And Trill hit me up. There was this NFT Top Shot tracker. If you type in your Top Shot name, it'll tell you your portfolio. Yeah. And he like I guess he looked mine up and he was like good portfolio. And then he sent me his. It was way bigger. And but I looked at the number.
I mean, but probably not nearly as big as Andy's. Like like dude, like talk about like Top Shot whale. Like
Top Shot whale, dude. And he's so good at fantasy sports too. Like he's just a good like sports guy. I don't know how he does it. While also being like a Chad builder, but Trill sent that to me, and I looked it up, and I like literally couldn't believe the number. I was like, it was like $200,000 or something, nothing like super crazy, but I was like, I probably put like a couple K into this, like not literally. It was hard to believe that I put maybe more than 3 or 4K into it. And
do you remember? Wait, do you remember the URL?
Let me ask Trill for it.
Because I remember I used to check it as well, and I would be like, oh my God. And I remember like at one point I was selling, like, I'm like, if I don't know who this guy is, because like, dude, I'm a Knicks fan, so I haven't watched basketball in like 20 plus years, right? Like we haven't been to the playoffs since like the 90s. So like I don't watch basketball at the moment. So like anybody that was like, I have no idea who this guy is, I don't know why his ordinary cars is selling for $12, but I'm going to hit that bid because there's no way that this, because I remember when I was collecting baseball cards when I was little, like I grew up a Mets fan as well. I am like a sucker for New York sports, like the bad New York sports teams outside of the Giants. But like, I remember like, I'd be like, oh, this like third baseman for like the Mets. Like I'm like, this guy is like gonna be like valuable long term. It's like those things are like you might as well use it as toilet paper at this point. So I was like, dude, if I don't know who this guy is, like I only want basketball players that I think are going to the Hall of Fame. So I think I like sold everything down to like legendaries and rares of like people who I know.
That was smart. And then for me, like when I found out how much it was worth, I just I mean, I did something kind of stupid where I was like, oh, this is just house money. Like, I'll just let it roll because it was so difficult to like sell and withdraw, and I just didn't want to deal with that whole headache. But that's another good learning lesson. Is like, I think something about the digital nature of some of this stuff is because it's just numbers on a screen, right? And it makes it a lot easier for us to like not realize like, oh shit, this is like a lot of fucking money. Actually, like I should probably like actually just eat the crow that I have to and figure this out. But that's why like traditional or not traditional, like actual crypto rails are so nice. Like going back to the example of Aave, all that stuff, they make it so easy to basically move capital around like on baseline ETH that when you go into something that's like this Web 2.5 experience and you're playing with large sums of money and they have these huge barriers around it, it's really hard to be like, okay, I will assimilate to this and figure it out because the world that we live in is so free in terms of capital flow and stuff.
Do you have any idea what happened there? Because I remember like this narrative of like Flow connecting to like OpenSea or ETH. Like I remember, I mean, this is a 2-year-old narrative. I have no idea what happened. Like,
I don't know either.
Like it's like I'm still patiently waiting. Like I got my LeBron James Kobe dunk, and I'm like, bro, like at some point this will be worth $1 million. I hope, right?
It could
like,
be. I mean, like that is the thing though. Like I started learning more about trading cards because that's something that we're planning on offering on Mina as well. And more and more I looked into it, I was like, holy shit, trading cards are like crazy. But there's different trading card packs, right? So you have like the Da Vinci and like Tops or whatever, Shaps or whatever. I forget the names of them now, but you have these different ones. So I guess the NBA Top Shot will have some aspect of like being early, but I've been playing So Rare, which is like this daily fantasy sports thing with NFTs, and that's been fun. I haven't really been winning, which is unfortunate, but I do think that it's really interesting that the NBA is focusing a lot more on like crypto and Web3,
right,
than any other sports league.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that I think the So Rare stuff is really interesting, right? Because it's like to your point, it's on like more crypto decentralized rails. I mean, I remember seeing the pitch, like people were pitching me on So Rare like really early, and I was just like, dude, I just have too much on my plate.
I don't know.
Yeah, it was soccer. Do you have any of like the legendary like players or whatever?
Yeah. I have like a Giannis, super rare. And then it's like a KD super rare, and like I have like 2 Jason Tatum super rares and like a Donovan Mitchell, and then so you have different tiers that you play in, and you need to have for all of the tiers except unique, you need to have 5 of the cards of the same tier. But on unique, which is the highest, unique is all 1 of 1 cards that season. Right. And so for unique, you need to have 2 uniques and then 3 super rares, and it's fun, man, because I think for me it's at least. I play daily fantasy sports like on Underdog a lot. Andy and Deez have got me into a lot of that stuff, and it's cool, but it's just not that good of a product. And I feel like using NFTs in daily fantasy sports, it's really hard to think about like, will I ever go back, right? Like that's kind of where my head is at. And I think if you look at the NBA, why Top Shot, actually I think this even applies to Top Shot. Why Top Shot I feel like was so successful was, think of the average like NBA fan, like they consume culture, they're young, they're tech savvy, right? Like the average NFL or MLB fan, I'm not speaking down on them or anything, but they're like middle-aged dudes that have like families and shit, you know what I mean? They're not really like as forward thinking or progressive. And so the fact that NBA Top Shot was able to really, like, if you listen to a lot of people that are into NFTs now, NBA Top Shot was usually their first intro into it, and so it makes sense to me that So Rare NBA has found product market fit, but it'll be cool, man. I think the more and more that we see digital collectibles or NFTs having a functional utility, the easier it becomes for these people to kind of understand it, because it's the same thing with to bring it back to our conversation from earlier. It's the same thing where you could understand what smart contracts were and like programmable money. Like you can hear those concepts and then you can visualize them, what they could be, and create a mental model for yourself. But it's not until you actually use something like a lending protocol or like a synthetic protocol, you go, oh, like that's how it works, right?
That was for me, like to that point, like when I was getting into DeFi, I remember like I was fucking around with like a couple $1,000, right? Because I was just like, I'm learning this, I don't really know. And I remember like, because I came from finance, right? I was trading my own capital, and my friends, I was in a share with my friends, like for the Hamptons. We had a Hampton share, and I would like, we trade in the morning, and then I would spend the rest of the day kind of like fucking around in DeFi. Like, I mean, I got rugged by SBF on sushi, right? And like all that shit. And like my friends were making fun of me, like, oh, what do you make? Like a couple $100? Like, what, why are you wasting your time? And to your point, it's like, I'm like, dude, like I'm learning. Like at some point, this is going to be a very valuable skill set, and people are probably going to pay me a lot of money for my knowledge. And I'm going to be one of the few people on the planet that like understands this, right? And it happened way faster in terms of like just crypto and NFT. Like, I mean, NFTFi, when I bought when I ended up getting my first NFT, which was a crypto kitty, and I bought it through NFTX as a shard. And then like somebody told me, it's like, oh, there's like a quick like 2 or 3x, and like they had like some other NFT on their platform. I'm like, quick 2 or 3x, and I was just like used to like DeFi, right? The DeFi summer, it's like buy this, sell it in like 4 hours. Yeah. It like immediately trades down 50%, and I'm like, all right, great. Like I just lost half my money, fucking awesome. And so then I actually started doing some DD, right? And I'm like, okay, like this thing is worth like maybe like 10 more ETH than like what I paid for it. So maybe like I'll buy everybody out at like 1 or 2 ETH above like the value that people paid, or I'll get bought out at that price and I move on. So I put in an offer, everybody accepted it. So I get this NFT, and then I post it as collateral on NFTFi, and I'm like, because I paid about $25,000 in terms of ETH for it at the time. And so I was like, all right, if I post it as collateral and I get a $10,000 loan against it, I'll, because at the time too, I was like super bullish on ETH. So I was like, all right, I'll take out a loan against it. I'll go long ETH. I'll stay long the asset. I'll pay back the loan. Some dude offers me 25 grand for it, which is what I paid. And I was like, all right, cool. Like I just took out a fully collateralized loan. And at the time, it was the biggest loan taken out on NFTFi. Now today, like people are doing like multi-million-dollar loans on these platforms. But like at one point I had the biggest loan out there on the platform, and it was just like I was just like learning, right? So to the point where it's like I understand how it works now.
You were the risk, bro. You were the risk in the whole.
yeah, exactly, right. But it's fucking crazy how fast we progress. Because like I remember in Q4 of 2020, I was like, bro, like I'm just gonna hang out in Discord with my internet friends until like the mainstream world figures this out like 5 years from now. Yeah. And then like literally it happened like 2 months later. It was fucking crazy.
No, that's something that's crazy to me though, is like having that knowledge. I still feel like that's something that even as an NFT trader I don't do enough, is like understanding there's so much alpha in these NFTFi markets, right? Understanding like because especially now I feel like this is something Cyrus, CIRUS on Twitter that I saw, he was talking about this, was like a lot of this, some of the runs that happen is because people leverage up their apes or their punks on BendDAO, and then they go and they buy like other things to flip. And that's something crazy to me when you actually think about it, is that like, oh wow, is there leverage in the ecosystem based on like loans people are getting for JPEGs? Like that's just like a funny, like that's the actuality of what's happening, but it's a funny thing that is a new market dynamic.
Well, okay, let's talk about BendDAO for a second, because I think that's really interesting. What are your thoughts on BendDAO?
My thoughts on BendDAO is I think it's cool, but I can't believe the LTV that you can get on some of these loans.
Like, I agree, and it's so funny because I like. When you look, and I've had a couple conversations with people that like come from like the traditional finance that understand the NFT market and trying to do like some esoteric stuff with NFTs. And this guy was actually telling me, it's like, dude, the Oracle on BendDAO, sometimes like especially like on Bored Apes, like there'll be like 4 trades a day, like depending on like what the volume is. And that's like literally deciding like the fate of like like I don't know how many hundreds of millions of dollars Bored Apes is right now in market cap. And then like you always see, like I always laugh because like Franklin is like trading it and like gaming the system. And like it reminds me sometimes, I'm like, dude, man, like I hope he doesn't get caught, because like if he gets caught, then like this is pretty bad for like the entire ecosystem short term, because that's like a lot of cascading leverage that like marks and leverage that like leave the system. But like, and I know he's like written a couple of threads like every once in a while where he's like, yeah, like I'm like, you know, kind of like market making this, you know, multi like $100 million market cap with like, you know, 500K. Right. And it like, to me, it's fucking crazy. And like that whole thing with the liquidation of the way BendDAO operates, it makes me like a little scared, because
Super
these
scared.
are like, it's not like this is a liquid asset where it's like, boom, because like that's the thing with Aave, right?
Yeah.
Like ETH is a liquid asset. Like there's going to be a bid at some point for size where people are just like, yeah, like I'll buy it here. Like I'll buy everything you have here.
You have flash loans too, right? To like liquidate, because then you can like, that was something going back. I was like, holy shit! Like, why was I not just running like a liquidation bot? Like that would have like just printed money. I just didn't understand it.
Can you dev? Do you know how to program?
I know how to program like okay-ish, but then I just like I'm getting back into it, and I want to start making like a lot of generative art. It's actually funny that you bring that up, because that's something I've been doing on my free time, because I realized that so Ivan, who goes by Kiwi, right? He was an ETH core dev and then worked at Prismatic Labs. I was able to avoid getting rugged so much in DeFi because we were in a group chat together, and like literally we would post a contract in the group chat and he would audit it real quick before we aped in. Right. Like looking back, I was like, if that didn't happen, like I would have been fucked. And so,
dude, if only ChatGPT was around back then.
Yeah, but dude, straight up, bro. Like put that in there, and people like, oh, you're gonna get rugged. Your fucking cream is gonna go to zero again.
Right. Man, dude, I got rugged on that.
yeah, I did too. Actually,
we all did.
And so that was cool. And right now, I feel like there's so much downtime in the market. Like I'm not really trading that much. I'm mostly just focused on building my own skill sets, because you know we were talking about this at length, and I feel like one thing that I feel like kind of gave you an edge was having like you were in the share in Hamptons, like watching traders and understanding how risk and all this stuff works. So when you get into the markets, you're like, okay, I know what to do. Like there's still skill sets I can bring from this like traditional thing that apply. And I feel like I'm so tired of people on like Twitter going like, fucking good morning, bro, to the people that are here. If you're on fucking Twitter right now, you're gonna be a billionaire. Right, like I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like,
man, I'm glad like those things don't pop up on my feed too often, because I mean I agree with you. Like it's like even now, like I've been like super busy, and I know like you're super busy too with everything you're working on. But like I don't like for me, I feel like for me it's very much one of those issues where it's like, you know, I'm working my ass off, right, and so I don't have time to like scroll Twitter and just be like post like you know positive vibes. It's like obviously like I'm hoping for the best. We're all sitting here working towards a better future, right? Like I'm not gonna just like throw fluff out there into the real world just to like show up on the screen. You know what I mean?
No, I get you. And the reason why it irritates me is not because like good vibes are bad, but it's like, man, so many people I feel like come into this space because they want a better future, right? They want a better life. Like this is one of the only places in the entire global financial market that you can have some degree of social mobility, right? Where you can go from middle class or poor and make it. Like you're not going to really, like unless, you know, you find some crazy edge in the traditional markets or you hit some crazy like options play on meme stock, that's just not going to happen, right? Like there's not much edge there. And so in here there is, like you could have minted a Bored Ape. You could have claimed a CryptoPunk. Right, you could have bought a Drifter, you could have bought a Cath, you could have all kinds of shit, art blocks, whatever, right? And the list goes on and on and on, right? And so there's more interest than ever, and I think a lot of that is because of NFTs. I think a lot of people understand NFTs better, and they're a really good Trojan horse for people to start thinking about Ethereum and smart contracts and all that stuff works. And people are like, okay, how can I educate? How can I participate? And a lot of people, there's this weird echo bubble kind of echo chamber, of people going like, oh, the best way to participate is to be on Twitter, right? Like, not really, man. Like, if you want to like learn things, go read documentation, right? Go on governance forums. Go on Twitter, find a curated list of accounts to follow that, you know, give you top of the funnel things to listen to. Like, learn how to program, learn how to develop, right? If you want a job in crypto, that's a great time to try to get a job right now, right? Go into a Discord that you really like for a project you really like. Start adding value. Start demonstrating your value.
I feel like it's funny because you say that, and it's like I remember like in DeFi summer, right? A lot of people would be like, all right, you don't know how to program, right? But like maybe you can explain something, right?
Yeah.
And that's valuable as well, right? If you can like take a concept, and I think that's something that like I was good at is like I don't know how to program. Like, you know, I can like look at code and like kind of understand it, like if somebody's helping me. But like what I am good at is like taking like this concept and like distilling it into something that people understand. And I feel like right now what I see a lot on Twitter is people are like, oh yeah, like just hang out on Twitter Spaces all day, just like shooting the shit about like what's the next thing to pump, what's the next thing that's not. It's like, dude, like you want to make this a career, you want to make this your like part of your life, like hop into a Discord, be like a Discord mod to start. Like there's I know so many people that started off at Discord mods that now are like crushing it, right?
Yeah.
And like Discord modding is not fun. It's not a fun spot to be in, right? All you're doing is like literally hearing people complain about shit, right? And having to like
you know what I mean?
You know? And so, but it's like, dude, like that's a better use of your time than like, you know, sitting on Twitter all day and just like being the reply guy or whatever, right? Like that's in my opinion, right? It's like I'd rather spend time doing that. I mean, we all do, right? We all do.
I'm irrelevant, bro. I don't really have that many replies.
Nah, dude, you're very relevant. You're very. Why do you think I had you on the podcast, dude? Like, dude, I'd be like, wait, Soby wants to come on. I'm like, wait, how many followers does he have? All right, we'll bring him on.
You know what's crazy about the follower shit? Though, that's something so I talked to Thread Guy a lot. I don't know if you know who Thread Guy is. I think you do know Thread Guy. He's, in my opinion, I think he's gonna be like a good person in the space for a while. He's young. He's like 21, but he's a good kid. Like he works hard, shows up. He works as kind of like the community manager or director of vibes at Jenkins.
Yep.
And he was going on in spaces. I thought I was so fucking funny. Like he literally. So first, NFT Inspect went down, and for people that don't know, NFT Inspect is a social rankings platform based on your Twitter engagement and your PFP that you have. Right?
What's your let's check it right now. I'm gonna check it right now. All right, so go to the story. I'm gonna check your ranking right now.
Oh, dude, I think you might have been down by now. Hopefully it is down. But so you know, a lot of these people on Twitter care so much about NFT Inspect grinding. Right, it's like grind your fucking bank account up. But anyway, like, so he's.
Oh like, man, now I know why you don't care. You're number 396. That's why.
That's not too bad actually.
I mean, but so here's the thing is because I've gone on this before because my ranking is let's see where I'm at right now. I'm 159, but here's what I think is more important though is the influence rank, and I think the influence rank is like. People that like have a lot of followers that follow you. So your influence rank is 55.
Oh, okay.
My influence rank is 7, right? So I'm like, to me, it's like the people that matter follow me. Like I'm cool with that, right? Like
top 55.
Yeah,
top 55.
Yeah, top 56, baby.
Such an esoteric number to throw out there, you know. But he was going on about this, and he was like, I can't believe it. Like I was like, wait, are you actually like? I didn't realize he wasn't like joking. Right. I was like, wait, no, you're like dead ass. He's like, what the fuck? Like, you don't check NFT Inspect? I was like, bro, I've probably been on that website once, maybe twice in my life, tops. Like, I don't really give a shit. And that's when I realized, like, oh, wow, like, a lot of these people, this is something that's crazy to me that never happened before was, like, people coming into crypto to just grow an audience. Like, right? Not to, like, make money or learn or any of that shit. That's, like, that's a new phenomenon, I think, unique to this new cycle. Like no one.
I agree.
Like it's never been happened before. So these people come in, they're like, I'm gonna build an audience, and I'm gonna fucking start a podcast, or I'm gonna start a newsletter, or whatever the fuck. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things. I'm not knocking it or anything, but it was just interesting that he was going. And then later on, the second part of his rant was like, I thought, you know, when I hit 100K followers, like life would figure itself out, right? Like I would have made a bunch of money and all that. And he's like not joking. Like this is the other thing because it sounds funny. I see you smiling, and I was like, "Oh wait, he's like dead ass. Like he really is speaking from the heart right now. Like I can't clown him right now." And I was like, "That's crazy."
You're like, "Yeah, man, same." You're like, when I hit top 56, I thought the same was gonna happen.
Dude, when I was 56, life was horrible, and then I moved up to 55. Shit was gravy.
Boom, banging.
And that's something I think these guys realize is they don't understand. And Thread Guy, he also brought this up, is like Twitter is like a tool. It's not the end goal, right? Mm-hmm. Like we don't really talk on Twitter that much because I have your like number and we text and shit. And but I'm saying is like we kind of knew each other of who we were because of Twitter and like the influence ranking. Actually, we brought up to draw that back in. It's like, okay, we have mutual friends, and my mutual friends like highly curate the people they associate themselves with. So like, I have to like at least know there's something going on with this guy, right? And I think that's something that these people don't understand is like, you can have 100,000 followers. That doesn't matter, man. Like, how close are you with, like, do you have friends? You know what I mean? Do you have like friends in the ecosystem that you could actually like have a conversation with that's outside of crypto? What I've noticed is most of the time we talk nowadays isn't even fucking about crypto. It's like about like AI or fashion or what the fuck we're up to. Or sometimes I'll call you and be like, I'm too busy to talk.
Dude, that was honestly, who was the first? Did you do that to Deez? Was that Deez the first person you did that to?
I did it. I did it to Size Chat. Actually, was the first person because it was
Size Chat. He was the one that I think tweeted it out, right?
Yeah.
Or he did that to people.
No, he never did it. He just he said normalize doing this, and I was like, that's so funny. I'm gonna actually do it right now. And I just like ran with it. I kept doing it. First time I did it to Deez, he was like, why the fuck do you even call me? And then I just hung up. He was super pissed. But I've done it even to Fiwo, which was like, what was the most satisfying one was to get him.
I mean, Fiwo is awesome. I was with him this past weekend. Dude, so his energy is so awesome. So happy every time.
What was that Prada show like? When you were, walk me through this actually, because I'm really interested in this. Like, so you're at this like kind of clouded up fucking invite only type of thing, right? You're Prada DAO, you got your little bag, and you got, Fiwo with you. How were you like? What were people like? What are you up to? Like, what do you do? And you're like, oh, I'm doing like 90cc, like a network product, or were you like, I'm into crypto? What was that whole
dude?
Flow like?
So at the shows, right? Like, it's like when you walk in, it's like it all hits you at once, right? So like you get to the show. You have to take a picture, right? You in the step and repeat. You got like a handler that kind of like walks you through. Take a picture here, take the videos here, take the picture there, and then like you wait until like the show starts. So like I'm talking to like the few people that I know, like from past trips or whatever, from other events, and you're just kind of like standing around. Everyone's taking pictures, trying to look really cool. Like you need. Like you need to get like the best shot. No, like way more like tight than that, right? Because like at prom, like you're hanging out with your friends, right? But like this is just like you have like influencers that are like taking tons of pictures. It's dark, so then it's like the flash sucks, right? So you're like sitting there, right? And it's like you have people with like professional photographers, and like everybody's like no smiles. Like I have to like sometimes I'm like, yo, I want to smile, and then I'm like, no, like. I gotta do this, but do fashion, right? Like literally, right? Like I'm like, derelict my balls, Capitan, right? Like, so like literally, I think the first time I went to a show, it felt very Zoolander-ish. I'm like, oh my god, like I love Zoolander so much more now. But it's been an experience, and like I've been getting used to it. But like so, like people show up, it's dark. You're like trying to like, cause like I would like if I saw you, I would be like, wait, like is that Soby? Cause like the light is shining in your eye, and you're like kind of like looking. Like what is that? I'm like, yo, that's so all right, Soby. And I'm like, nope, that wasn't Soby. That was somebody else, right? And then you sit down, right? And then you sit down, and then like the show is like 15 minutes, and then the show's over, and then everybody gets up and leaves. And so then I'm like, wait,
mingle? There's not like
no, like they mingle later. Or, I mean, maybe I'm not invited to the mingling part. I don't even know. But, like, literally, like, at the end of it. And so then, like, usually what happens is, like, the lights turn up. And then that's when, like, me and, like, whoever I'm with, like, that's when we take all the pictures, right? Where, like, everybody, like, takes their pictures before. Because I think part of it, too, is, like, you have to run to the next show. Because, like, a lot of these people are going from, like, show to show to show. So they're like, okay, like, all right, I'm here for the Prada show. All right, this is over. I have to go get changed, right? Because it's, like... It's like the proper etiquette to wear something from like the designer when you go to the show. Some people are dressed head to toe. Some people just have like one piece of their outfit or whatever. But like you don't show up to like all these shows wearing the same thing for the most part. So it's like people like, run to the car, getting changed in the car on the way to the next show. So there's no like schmoozing that happens afterwards, right? The schmoozing maybe happens at night, like at the nightclub, going out, whatever. But like the show itself, like, it's a really cool experience, like, so if you play your cards right, Soby, maybe I'll bring you with me to a show. You know, like it depends. You got to butter me up though.
I gotta get skinnier, dude. You've been getting skinny, dude. So I gotta do the same thing, you know.
Dude, I've been trying. It's like
you're doing good, dude.
Dude, you gotta hop on. I just try to eat keto when I'm home. It's just tough when I'm traveling.
Traveling was what gets me, dude. I'm like a fat kid, you know what I mean? And so like I traveled, I'm like, oh my god, when we were in Miami, like the hotel we were in, there was a Nobu in the lobby, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna just eat a Nobu every fucking day.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I don't blame you. Like, I love Nobu. It's like,
and I love like desserts and shit. I'm like, bro, I'm in there. So we're working on that, but that's not what I expected, to be honest. Like,
what?
I thought
the show?
I thought it would be like more of a much more social thing.
It's not. I think the social stuff happens at night, like at the like when people are going out. But I think people are just like so business that at the end of the show they like have to go to the next show, right? Because like especially if like you're in fashion, like you have to be there. It's like like literally like you know, if you were talking on stage and I wanted to come support you, it's like, yo, like I'm sorry, like you're cool, dude, but I gotta support my boy. Like I gotta be there for his chat, right? So I think it's similar to that. But it's I mean, it's a really interesting experience. It's like super submersive, and like one of the things that like I always focus on when I'm watching these shows is like how it makes me feel. Like whether it's like I remember the first show that I went to, which was like a year ago in January. It was like the vibe. Like I don't remember everything from the show, but I'll tell you, like when the show finished, I was like, this is futuristic American Psycho. That was like the vibe I felt, right? Very Patrick Bateman, very like 1980s suits, and like super dark and futuristic and like Wall Street vibes. And like when I read stuff online, it was like other people got that vibe. I'm like, all right, cool. Like I got it. Like that was awesome. I'm like, all right. I'm like, cool. Like I get it. I know it's cool, but it was an awesome experience. Every time I go, it's just great. And like being able to see culture and fashion, and like being there at like the intersection of seeing like these conversations that I'm having with people in the fashion space that are like interested, but like taking their time and want to make sure they do it right and want to make sure they learn, to me is like super encouraging. And that's like with, I mean, I'm sure you have plenty of these conversations too, where there's the range of the spectrum, right? Of some people that are like, yo, like NFTs are dead. Like that was a scam. To people that are like, okay, I get it. We don't need to drop an NFT tomorrow, but like, let's understand what's happening here.
Yeah, that's why I think what's really cool with what you're doing with like 90cc is kind of showing the blueprint for people, because that's something that I feel like you guys bring to the table, is like the deep understanding of the application layer that I feel that some people are kind of lacking, because they don't get it, like how to like merge these different worlds. And I think for me, that's what I love about even to like a similar degree of like what we're doing at Xpopolis for the games we're building, is trying to showcase people like, hey, like NFTs aren't, you know, the next thing that's going to kill the planet. Like there are ways to make better experiences for consumers and make more immersive experience for consumers and make them more meaningful. Like one thing that I really liked about the drop that you did is that things are provably scarce, like provably rare and scarce. Like you can go and buy, like I have like a bunch of like, I guess Balenciaga's canceled now, but I have a bunch of Balenciaga and Prada, but I don't know how much of this shit is out there.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Dude, that to me was like, to that point is like, I'm like, dude, as a consumer, like I want to know that, right? Like every time I talk to somebody, I'm like, yo, how many of these do you guys make? You're like, not that many.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? That's not a fucking answer. like, so I'm just like, dude, as a consumer, this is exactly what I want, you know? So, yeah, you know, it's like, I mean, I could talk to you for like another hour and a half, but dude, like, this was fucking awesome. I have so much time jamming with you. And I feel like we've had this conversation now, like on the phone, to the point where like, dude, like, why, like, you should just come on the podcast. So I'm glad you came on. I thought it was pretty good. Like, I felt like I know I wanted to chat about Wolf Game. Maybe we like hop on a Spaces or something next week and chat about it, and like,
let's do that.
You know, make it a little more interactive. But dude, thank you so much.
Thanks for having
I appreciate
me,
you coming on, and
thank you, Lisa. You know what I mean, the producer.
Yeah, Lisa's crushing it. So yeah, Lisa, thank you for everything. And dude, like, I can't wait to see you soon. Hopefully, we can meet up somewhere.
I'll see you soon, my brother. Have a good one.